Hi everyone. Delighted to say today we are joined by Marco Verbeek. Marco has over a decade of experience working in professional football. He began his career coaching in Sparta Rotterdam's youth academy before transitioning into a scouting role at FC Den Bosch. In more recent years, Marco has specialized as a set piece coach, working with Club Bruges and currently holds the same role at Almeria City in the Eredivisie. So firstly, welcome Marco.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's a big honor.
Thank you very much. As part of this Q&A, we invited people to submit their questions on set plays. So I'd like to take a minute just to thank everyone who took the time to send their questions in to Marco. We received a wide range of questions from individuals working across different levels of football, which we've consolidated into 5 key discussion topics for today. Okay, so the first question, Marco, how
Yes.
often how often in the week do you work on set pieces and how do you organize your drills?
Well, Bill, that's a good question. Look, in principle, every day you work on set pieces, right? Because the situations are changing constantly. Because sometimes some injuries, some subs, some from your own team, from the opponent, the lineup. When does the coach announce it, and when can you train? So in general, set pieces every day. Also, those analyzes you're making every day of yourself, of the opponent, individual. But something is important. You can't divulge everything to the players, right? So you have to filter information you pass on. Players are not coaches, so you have to be very careful. What can I tell them and what not? At the end, for me, it's all about one thing: is everyone needs to know what's going to happen except the opponent, right? So that's the main thing. So when we are in training, in general, which place the set pieces have in this periodization, in this lineup, in the planning of the year, right? Um, is it separated? So are the set pieces separated from everything else, or are the set pieces, set plays, uh, part of the team function? So, for example, when we are training in attacking in the final third, are we also adjusting the corner kicks and the free kicks in that area? Or are we training in week 4 like only on transition? Are we also training transition the set play? So that means when we recover the ball, that we have to take the free kicks around the mid circle very quickly, because that belongs to transition, right? So, but let's say set plays are separated, so not in a total periodization. I like to trigger players any possible moment with numbers, with videos, with analysis, with whatever, because it's not only about the content, it's also the culture, right? You need to make the set piece culture in your team. There is a structure, of course, the principles, but the circumstances, they are changing. So you like to trigger on another way, not every time the same menu. um, what important is for me is our playbook. We have a playbook with, let's say, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, corners, free kicks, throw-ins, whatever. It's important that everybody knows that playbook, not only on day one, but they have to remind it a long time. But out of that playbook, we create a match book. What do we use during the next match, right? Um, and I'm a fan of dry training without resistance. But of course, I use mannequins, right, and stuff like that to illustrate the situation as clearly as possible. That's my main thing, training as dry as possible. But moreover, I believe in a very task oriented system where I divide the squad into 3 groups. So one is like the suppliers, the guys who are taking the corner kick, the guys who are throwing in. The other one are the creators who are blocking, entice, lure. And then there is a third group, which is finishers. So when I split our squad in those 3 profiles, then this training is much more manageable for me because you're not dependent of the lineup and the moment the coach announced the lineup. So everybody is involved. Also the game changes, the subs. So for example, on day one, let's say on a Tuesday, we only train with the suppliers, only the guys who deliver it out of the playbook, out of the match book. And the match book is kind of a part of the playbook, but there's also a special one. So a special one based on what are we going to do next match. For example, a free kick or a corner kick or whatever. But everybody needs to know what's going to happen because you never know who's injured tomorrow. And you also don't know the lineup. Maybe you know, but you can't tell. So you need to involve those game changers in your training. So that's for example day one, and on the second day on Wednesday we train with the creators, like I said, the guys who are blocking or entice and lure, and the third day, of course, the finishers. And the advantage is that every player is involved, right? Every player also, like I said, the game changes, and maybe one day before the match you can combine everything, and in 11 against 11, even there's a different lineup, they combine and everything comes together. What very important is the order of your set plays. When are you going to do it? So we have this special one, and I have very long discussions with Simon Mignolet, which was a perfectionist. Is that an English word, perfectionist? About when are we going to take the special one? Never the first one, always the second or the third. He was amazing. Because again, and that's what's important. Everybody needs to know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen, except the opponent. So there's a lot of work to do in the week, but there are a lot of ways to implement that.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing, Marco. That's really, really insightful to hear about the level of detail that's now going into set plays at the most elite clubs. One question I had for you off the back of what you've just said there is you spoke about the three different groups. So supply, create, finish, I think it was. How do you determine which players fall into those categories? Do you use any data, or is that a conversation with the head coach as well?
Yeah, that's a good one. Of course, you have to make sure that not all 11 players are finishers, right? So you start somewhere. You start somewhere about, all right, this is about a little bit data about the profiles of the players, of course. But somewhere you switch the teams, you switch the groups, and you say, okay, you are going to that play because of his profile, because of something you didn't know from him. But also because of another lineup. Sometimes you have to change because the coach decides to put another player on the pitch. And then, yeah, you have to anticipate on that situation. And players, they like if they are going to another group so they can see every part of those set pieces.
Yeah, I guess it's in some ways, if they move around, it helps improve their education around what's expected.
Exactly.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, and then the second question we have, when designing attacking set plays, what is your main focus? Is it your players' strengths or is it the opposition's weaknesses?
That's a good one. Are they? Is it possible to separate those things? That's my counter question. I don't think you can, but let's fall down. It starts all with a solid analysis, right? Everything starts with that. And for example, it's remarkable that our opponent, maybe ourselves, are using the same defensive organization, always the same defensive organization, because set pieces are about move and counter move, right? They do something and then we do something else. And when they do this, then we do that. So when set plays are a story of move and counter move, then why and the opponent is always using the same defensive organization, so that means that you and I and all the viewers from your platform can prepare 1 week to these defensive organization. We have 1 week because they are they reveal the first move, right? So we have to prepare 1 week. Part of set pieces is based on quality, right? A good header, a good kick, like David Beckham or something. But another, just as important factor is the element of surprise. I base my approach on both the opponent's weakness, but also the strengths available in my own team. So I don't think you can separate it, but I'm really agree that they are both very important. But in the end, you only have one ball, so it's like team cycling. One person Only one person can win. Only one person can score. So the other ones needs to support him, right? Um, so you're making a plan in general, in total. What is the weakness, our strength, how we're going to do it? Yeah.
Brilliant. And I know you mentioned earlier on about a playbook you guys have. Do you have almost certain principles that you'll always work towards as part of your set play methodology? Um, or are you sort of just are you quite flexible with your, if we focus on attacking set plays, for example, are you quite flexible game to game how you approach your attacking set plays?
No, like I said, the players are not coaches, so we have to keep it as simple as possible, but also unpredictable for the opponent, right? Predictable for ourselves and unpredictable for the opponent. So it's very important that we do small steps and you expand it in the season. It's not starting with uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 37 options. No, just start with for example 5 or 6 options, and of course in the game. So when that's clear for everyone in the game, you can change, because you also have to deal with two different players. One is the responsible player, let's say Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, responsible players thinking about set plays. But you also have not responsible players, irresponsible players. I don't know the names. Let's say Balotelli, which I don't know but it looks like he's not responsible. So it's very important that you change the rules, and you can sometimes talk with players and say, hey, we have this, but you can do this in the situation, and nobody needs to know, but only you and I. Um, so in general, easy, and then maybe one or two details try to figure in. Now,
Brilliant. So question number 3, which kind of touches on something you mentioned a minute ago, where you said that all the work needs to start with solid analysis. So question number 3 is, what kind of data analysis do you do as part of your overall set play analysis?
what kind of data I use? Okay. Well, first of all, I use Mobi. Maybe you don't know what that is. MOBE, which means my own blue eyes, because this is very important for me. I must trust my own eyes. If I don't, and I just say, "Oh, the computer is telling me," then that's not good enough. A computer does not know how or what you meant with certain set plays. Of course, they can tell a lot of things, but not everything. So I have to look and again and again and again and again and see things the computer can't see. Maybe in future he will, but for now I think he's not far enough. Um, I often look at the opponent, the individual profiles, of course, and adjust them based on their height, aerial strength, the hops, of course, which we all use. I also look which position in their setup they leave open when they receive, for example, a red card. And who in their defense is responsible for marking who. So you can know that in advance. In defensive part, but in attacking part, you don't know in advance. But you can estimate based on profiles and previous matches, and also in halftime. In halftime, you know a lot more than you know before the match. So in halftime, you have this very big role to change your set plays or to fine tune your set plays and know which player has the best opportunities to get free in the target zone or whatever. And when it comes to defense and data and defense, I use these models that try to recognize what the opponent is doing. Right? You never know, but you need to find a red line, a structure, because, like I said before, you cannot tell everything to the players. You cannot tell everything you know. Maybe they do this, maybe they do that. It's not good enough. So you have to make it compact. Um, so what are they doing against this formation? What are they doing against that formation? You have to put yourself in the shoes of the opponent. Is that good English? You have to
Yeah.
try to think in the mind of the opponent. What are they going to do against us, and how can we solve that? But I also, and because I'm an old school guy, I'm also use a stopwatch, because I when we are talking about data, because um, what time does it take, for example, corner kick, the defensive team is organized. What time does it take? Most of the teams taking 12, 13, 14 seconds before they are on the right position and have eyes on the ball. But that's quite a long time because they use it for taking a break, taking a rest, uh, you know. So that is the time we need to attack. So we need to take our corners in 7 or 8 seconds, because then the situation is organized. But some teams are very good organized and they are there in 7, 8 seconds. They are fully organized. But most of the teams, even tonight in Champions League, they take 13, 14 seconds to be there. So my stopwatch in this case is also very important. For me,
Okay, so question number 4. How many set play routines do you ask your players to remember on a match day? And how are these routines affected by substitutes?
all right. Yeah, I have to repeat again. Players are not coaches. I'm sorry for that, but um, uh, there's a difference between responsible players and irresponsible players. You have to know your own players. You can see the opportunities for the opponent, but you have to know your own players. It's very important in that situation. So if you have this, for example, this national team like World Championship, then you have more time because you're together all day. Everybody speaks the same language, which is very important in this case. Um, for example, in our league and in England, we have a lot of French and Spanish people who are not speaking English very well, like you do. Um, so this communication thing is a thing. So when that's for me one reason why in European Championship and in World Championship a lot of set pieces are made. One of the reasons, of course, because they're speaking the same languages. They can talk to each other, think with each other. There's a good culture. Um, so it's not in Premier League and in our Premier League in Netherlands, but um, I believe we must keep things simple for the players and expand during the season. How can we be predictable for ourselves but unpredictable for the opponent? It's not only about the what. It's also about the when and the who. It's very important. I think we can include at most 2 special routines per match, maybe 3. It depends about the responsible players you have. The question is when to use them and what to do with the other opportunities. For example, you might follow a sequence that runs parallel, is that English? With the clock. So when you make this plan and you make this order, you can use the clock. For example, in the first quarter of the match, we take our corners in 7 seconds. So everybody knows out of us. And the next match, you take the second quarter. So then it's recognizable for ourselves, it's predictable for ourselves and not recognized for the opponent. Um, and then you're looking for when is the moment you're taking the special one. Now, and of course, at halftime, Maybe there are some subs, maybe you see some spaces, then you can decide what are we going to do there. But the main thing, this one, I give an example, and I learned it from my friend Marcus Uglierberg, which we are going to see in the Premier League in now and 5 seasons. Remember this recording because he's a very, very clever assistant coach and a very great set piece coach. He's working for Viborg in Denmark, a very clever guy. When subs begin, the situations becomes more complex, like after 60 minutes, right? And then a one-on-one sub, such as we bring Virgil van Dijk and we take out Rudiger, then they have the same profile, so we don't need to it's not complex, it's quite easy, right? It's fairly easy to arrange because they share the same profile. But what if the coach makes 3 subs or there's an injury, so there's less time to tell the player what to do? And he speaks bad English, he is not responsible, and the situation becomes more complex for the players. I think in that moment, it's very good to make it as easy as possible. In some formations, you will have to change roles, right? Or let the player adjust themselves. Not everyone speaks English, and the time is short because injury, we need there. It's 1-0 behind, so we have to hurry, and then the set pieces, before the dugout, the assistant coach with the tablet or the iPad or the papers, the players are not there. In my opinion, the most are not there. So my friend Marcus from Denmark, he said, no, you have to make the situation more easy. So let's say about 70 minutes, then we use only this corner kick. At that moment, a familiar corner is taken, but first, all players gather and captain assigns the roles. So they collect next to the goal or whatever, and the captain says, okay, you and you are going there, you and you are going there, and you are going there. So that means nobody needs to remind anything. The captain divides the roles. They say what everybody's going to do. And of course, the corner is trained, but it's an easy solution for a complex situation. And how do I say, the unpredictable side of it is because when the next corner kick is taken, then you change the roles. So the captain says, okay, now you and you are going there. Now you and you are going there. I don't know if I can clear this very much to you, but it's a good solution to throw away all those papers because players are not, they're watching and some do, but most of are thinking, oh no, it's cold, I want to go in, let me play. But it's culture, right? So there are solutions from it.
Yeah, the really interesting points there you've mentioned. Just to add to the point around substitutions, I guess with the rule change as well, with each club now being able to make 5 substitutions, you're potentially looking at 10 new players by the end of the game. So yeah, I guess that just adds to your point about players taking ownership a bit more of it and actually managing it themselves.
Yeah, of course. And then you can tell you can put more information and more information, but they won't. So there's a maximum of information you can give them. So you have to know what are we going to give them and what not. I think the defensive part is very important, of course. So that's the most important thing. But when they bring 2 or 3 new players, then you have to organize that. Then you have no time to take the attacking set plays also. So it's not that easy. But he make a solution, and I'm using it. We're using it, and it works. Not in goals, but it works in they don't have to think anymore.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so yeah, moving on to our final question. How do you view the role of set plays in youth academies?
Well, in my country, Netherlands, we do everything we can to eliminate set plays. So children up to 12, 14 years old, they play competition, but they dribble the ball instead of throwing it in. The throw-in is away. Corners can be dribbled in. And soon I'm very sure heading will also be banned here because of the headache and the so I'm sure so there's a very niche market in here for set plays in your academy, but still players in your academy must be prepared for set plays because they are part of the game, the result and the development, right? So when they are in the higher teams or in the first team, there are set plays. So how I'm gonna do it? So you can split it in two things. One is team development in yacht. Um, well, I think you can include all aspects of set plays in your seasonal planning. So, for example, you can divide the season in 4 parts, and in the first part, the first block, 6 matches or 8 weeks or whatever, you play 100% zonal marking. You learn them to play in zonal marking for one block in the season. In the second block, you learn them to 100% man marking. In your academy, I'm talking about it. Man marking. In the third block, you leave 3 attackers on the midline, in front, or maybe 5, whatever. Try something and play with it. Let them think about themselves. And in the fourth one, of course, you can let them think because players in the pitch are responsible. You cannot reach them anymore. So if they are responsible in the pitch, I think and I mean that they have to be responsible next to the pitch. They have to think with you if they are responsible players, of course. Give them that space also in your academy. And the same applies to attacking situations. In the first block, you choose to play all situations in 7 seconds. Throw-ins, 3 seconds. Corner, 7 seconds. Free kick, 3 seconds. Take and play. In the first block. In the second block, you might look for some long variations, inward, outward, in swinging it, and so on. So there's a lot of things to play, but I think your development is about development. It's not about winning games. Set plays is about winning games or not losing games. So you can play with it, right? You can play and say, okay, now this block we only do this, and they learn how to play with it. I think that's a good solution to implement those set plays in your academy. But you have that is about this team development, team level. But you also have like individual level, right? Because we coaches are all responsible for creating specialists, the best ones. A player who has been in the Yacht Academy for 6 years, he must have developed a specialty. And that's something we don't do anymore because they train the same time together, they do the same practices, they take the same lunch, they follow the same diet, and they take the same bus, and they take the same sleep, right? Everybody is doing the same, but we have to create this specialist. And I think when you are 6 years in your academy, for example, and you are right winger, right back, right full back, no, right back is it, right? Then how is it possible that he cannot throw in more than 30 meters? How is it possible? You have to make him a specialist, right? So that's for example, and you told about ownership. Also that one, how is it possible that a central defender is not allowed to take this leadership in the pitch, verbal leadership? Goalkeeper also, he needs to, and you can teach him that, of course. It takes time, yes, but it must be done. Because if you become average as a player, you will be just like everyone else, right? And next to that, I believe in your principles, like Johan Cruyff said in Netherlands, you never put the ball with your hands. If you put the ball with your hands, let's say we have this free kick, you put the ball with your hands on the floor, then your face is always down to the floor. So then you cannot see the options. So if you put the ball on the floor, you do that with your foot, with your feet, with your feet. And then you can play quick if the possibility is there. Another one is, let's say a referee is whistling like a free kick against. So what are you going to do? You're thinking about the papers. Oh, the coach said we need to go in zone. So we run to the zone. But you don't forget your eyes on the ball, right? You have to see the situation. Never lose the situation. because the papers say we have to go there. So in youth academy, you can learn players to develop, and when they are in first team, they have this backpack with information, and they have this experience. So yeah, it's a way. There's a lot to win in my country, especially, but we're working on it. So step by step.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Marco, and like really interesting to hear about how things work in the Netherlands as well. I think from my experience as well, one thing where clubs often go wrong is they disregard set plays with the younger age groups, and then if a player then steps up to the senior team, suddenly there's a real big emphasis on set plays, and it's quite a jump to go from nothing to everything. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing. That was the final question. So yeah, we'd just like to thank Marco again for your time. It's been fascinating hearing about your insights and your knowledge and experiences. If anyone has any questions off the back of today, please just drop me a message on LinkedIn. But yeah, thank you very much, Marco.
Okay, thanks for having me, Bill. Have a nice day.
Cheers.